Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report and Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer from an undisclosed location, a little set change you may have noticed from yesterday. A little 7 a.m. flight gets you up bright and early, so I'm feeling it alongside Mike Gallagher, who routinely mixes in some set changes back there with the backdrop of the mountains. How are you doing, Mike?
Yeah, I'm still at Haleakala in Maui. No, I've been home. I had a hectic morning today. I did get a hike in today, and then my
Nice.
my girlfriend had the audacity to ask me to go to Costco today. So I've been so I've been dealing with that. But I was like doing slaloms through there, man. I was
I
because
was gonna say
she had to get
Costco
she had to,
on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving feels like a death sentence.
you had to get the $6 pumpkin pie. She's like, you got to get it. Like, all right. So, well,
There you
little did I
go.
know that they open at 9 instead of, because I got there with bells on at 9:40, and then I was like looking for parking, and they opened early. So, but I got
Nice.
my pumpkin pie. Got through all 28 pressers for tomorrow. So in a pretty good spot and ready
Wow.
to break down everybody on the front end of a back to back today. Everyone's playing today, is playing tomorrow. The only teams who aren't playing tomorrow are the Knicks and the Pistons, who played yesterday. So interesting schedule, but
Yeah.
we'll have a little bit to talk about here with in-season tournament. We'll talk about all that. It should be fun.
Yeah, let's get into it. The in-season tournament is the highlight of today's slate. It does drive some interesting context around some of these games, and I still think in this first year there's going to be some variance in terms of which teams and which coaching staffs really place an emphasis on this that are going to be difficult to decipher. I think what will end up happening is like I know Chris Lafficus was saying there's like a puff piece on Halliburton and how he really wants to win the in-season tournament, and Indiana can clinch a group win today with a win. But I caution people to put too much emphasis into these things simply because one, what else are they going to say? And two, a lot of times, like just because you hear from someone that they do care or that the players do or whatever, doesn't mean that the others don't, right? You just might not hear it from the others. So relative to the rest of the slate, you don't know. But let's walk through these scenarios today, as you've brought up in front of us. Group A's take the center stage tonight. On the Western Conference, the Lakers can clinch Group A and home court for the quarterfinals with a win. Utah clinches the West Group A with a win and a Phoenix loss. Phoenix is playing at Portland tonight on the front end of a back-to-back. A loss there would be pretty unlikely. And then Indiana can clinch Group A with a win. In terms of how the in-season tournament works, teams like Philadelphia, they can't clinch anything tonight. But if they win and Indy still wins, they could still have something to play for in terms of being the wild card team in. And how do you get to be the wild card team in? Point differential. So I'm very interested to see if some of these teams that have lost a game in the group stages, but have like a decent point differential, Philadelphia, who is plus 12 right now, if they choose to try to lay it on, if they get the opportunity to, if they're playing till the final buzzer. And a team like Philadelphia, for example, they're competing for wild cards, not with the other teams in their group, but with everybody else. And so they have to compete with a wild card by laying it on the Cleveland Cavaliers compared to like a Knicks team who got to play Washington and will get to play Charlotte, right? And so because of the group dynamics in terms of who you're playing and whatnot, and some of the differences, I'm interested to see if we see teams try to run up the score in any way, shape, or form. The other game situation that you would naturally be concerned about that today is Phoenix and Portland. But I will tell you this, Phoenix, if you look at their group situation, they're at 0 on point differential, and the Lakers are at 42. So for them to win the group, they'd have to have the Lakers lose tonight to Utah, Phoenix win out, and then Phoenix surpass the Lakers on point differential. To surpass the Lakers, the Lakers would have to lose by like 15-20 tonight, right? For this to even become a scenario. Phoenix is also on the front end of the back-to-back. I don't think they care. I don't think they're going to care for the play-in stuff. I think they're going to view it as
Golden
like
State tomorrow
a
as
little
well.
bit out of reach. Yeah, a little bit out of
And then
reach.
get Golden State.
So I think you have to sort of by feel and looking at the groups in the standings, get an idea of which teams might be more likely to kind of lay it on and which teams might be more likely to just treat it like any other game, especially on the front end of back to back, because that's the key thing here. If this weren't a back to back, I think you might see teams be like, yeah, why not? Why not leave the starters in an extra 2 minutes and see how far we can get? But on the front end of a back to back, if you're a team that has championship aspirations, not just in season tournament aspirations, are you really going to keep running guys out there for 38, 39 minutes when you're up 30-40? I think it's pretty questionable given the circumstances that these are on the front end of a back to back. So, Mike, any other context you want to add there for group play dynamics?
I think the only thing that really matters to me, there's only 2 games where I think like, okay, maybe we got to think through it. Maybe we got to add minutes. Haven't had a chance to look at minutes. Blame my girlfriend for going to Costco, but I will after this. There's 2 games. The Utah Lakers game is kind of a big deal. You win, you're in basically. I think that matters to them, especially the Lakers. You know, the yada yada yada. The league would love that, all that good stuff. And then the other one, Indiana, they would clinch, and the Hawks really need a win. I think they kind of want to go for it. You know, the Hawks are strike me as a team that would care. So, they're in range. If they get a win here, they're in the discussion for a wild card or B. Maybe they could run down the Pacers. If they can win out as well. So those are the 2 ones, like you mentioned. I think Portland, Phoenix, throw it out the window. Toronto or Orlando, pretty much throw that out the window to me. Yeah, so those are really the 2 games where I think that actually things kind of matter here.
Yeah, and if Atlanta were to win out, for example, because they naturally gain on Indiana by winning tonight, right? They don't
Yep.
play Philadelphia again. So then they're getting into a point where they will know what the point differential they need is in the final game against Cleveland. Right now, Indiana would get
Yep.
Detroit and kind of know as well, but they'd at least know for Philadelphia how they need to pass. So I think I think this Indiana Atlanta game looks like a good game to target tonight
Mhm.
for DFS for overs betting, potentially seeing higher elevated minutes and different things like that. Okay,
For sure.
let's get into the injury report portion of the program. Obviously, we want to paint the context of the slate because it is a different dynamic with the in-season tournament. But let's get to the injury related stuff. Let's start with Toronto and Orlando. Raptors, nothing of note on the injury report here. OG Anunoby's back. Gary Trent's not listed on the injury report, so I think we're all good there. Any notes on the Raps?
Nope, just pretty good game for them. Obviously, against Detroit, they had 44 assists. Darko ball is a thing they're talking about now. But yeah, pretty fresh here. They are in the front of the back to back. That's I won't say that again. Everyone is, but yeah, I think they're in a tough spot against this Magic defense, which is playing really strong as well. So yeah, we should see. Obviously, the big question is how much Jakob Poeltl is going to play now that they have options to play smaller. Is that on the table? All that stuff. But yeah, they're pretty much locked and loaded. Starters are going to be good. Big bench pieces in Gary Trent. Precious, I think, is in a pretty decent spot. And then we'll see if they go bigger with a Boucher and maybe cut out Malachi. Those are kind of things that we have to figure out going into this one.
While we're talking about Orlando's defense, because I don't think I've ever asked you this before, and I'm genuinely curious. I don't think they have the reputation of having anyone that's like an elite individual defender. And obviously, they lost Wendell Carter Jr., kind of like an anchor. Center is usually an anchor of defense, and they plugged in Goga
Mhm.
Batadze. Hasn't hurt them at all. How are they so good defensively? Like, what is the thing that makes Orlando so good defensively? Are there underrated individual defensive specialists on this team that are just not getting the notoriety league wide in terms of their defensive impact?
I thought Suggs has been. I kind of thought Suggs had the reputation of being a good defender. I kind of thought he wasn't, but he's been really good. Like he kind of limited Halliburton in the last game. He's been diving on the floor, all the effort plays. So their on ball defense has been. They kind of stole some stuff from Cleveland, where like dudes kind of pinch in on ball, and it's made a little bit tougher for ball handlers to produce. And their rim defense has been really good. Wendell Carter Jr. and now Goga's protecting the paint pretty well. So they're getting good ball pressure and good rim defense. That's a formula to have a pretty good, and they kind of play a little bit slower as well. So yeah, it's kind of a good formula to be a good defense.
Nice. All right, Orlando side, Markel Fultz is out. Wendell Carter Jr. is out. Jet Howard on G League assignment. What other notes do we have on the Magic?
No, just gonna get Anthony Black starting again. Jalen Suggs returned from injury over the weekend. Mentioned he guarded Halliburton pretty well in his brief minutes. Yeah, should be pretty decent on the playing time here. We'll see. They play who do they play tomorrow? They play the Denver tomorrow. They are not traveling, so maybe they could push guys up a little bit. Yeah, we'll see how many minutes Jonathan Isaac gets. He's been kind of cutting into the centers, so that's something we'll have to debate. But yeah, I think we've got this rotation pretty much figured out. Anthony Black's been not really producing on the stat sheet, but again, defense. He's been guarding Zach LaVine and a bunch of other good on ball players. They seem to really trust him there. So he's again not really talented offensively yet, but the defensive impact has been there.
Nice. All right, let's get into Cleveland and Philadelphia, the game that I will be probably glued into the most tonight, simply because I've got some in-season tournament futures on the Philadelphia 76ers, so I hope they are motivated to run it up. But the Cleveland side, no Donovan Mitchell, no Isaac Okoro, no Ty Jerome, Karis LeVert questionable with left knee soreness. We saw this situation last game in the absence of Karis LeVert. They still handled Denver. They played really well, kind of the old Cleveland motto of great defense with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, and Darius Garland and Max Strus and Craig Porter Jr. were kind of enough offensively to kind of make things work. What are your expectations or your read on Karis LeVert today? Do we have any starters jerseys information? And what's your thoughts on his likelihood of returning tonight?
So let's start with Donovan Mitchell. He's hurt. We mentioned last week on Friday's show that he's listed with a strain, not soreness, like he was listed the first time he missed the back to back. So he's injured. So I think he's probably missing both these games. LeVert feels a little back to backy, managey. Do they want to play him here in the tournament? Maybe, probably, I guess. So I guess I would lean in. They like him off the bench. There was commentary from JB Bickerstaff that they want to kind of get a look at this Garland Struce combo in the backcourt, which suggests Mitchell's missing more time, and B, quite obviously, they want to start him there. So as a guard. So yeah, if Karras plays, I would say he's almost certainly off the bench. That would leave a starting lineup of Jared Allen, who had a plus 42 in 29 minutes against the Nuggets. Just really good defense from him against Joker, obviously Evan Mobley and Dean Wade, who produced on the stat sheet after he kind of didn't earlier as a starter. So yeah, then obviously if LeVert doesn't play, man, Craig Porter Jr. has been freaking great. Just one of the darling out of nowhere guys, was pretty good in Vegas, pretty good preseason as well. He is kind of locked in to minutes, and he would be viable on a DFS smallerish slate today. So that's something. But again, I kind of think LeVert's in. I don't have a great read. I will pull up. I'm blaming Costco again, but I'm going to pull up starters jersey, see if I can find anything before we move to the next team.
All right. Well, while you're looking at starter jerseys, I'll introduce the Philadelphia 76ers, and we can go back if we have any more information there. Nothing on the injury report for Philadelphia today, which is a great sign, right? Joel Embiid had been listed questionable kind of all last week. A couple off days here, not listed on the injury report at all. I think that's a really, really encouraging sign. Kelly Oubre Jr. still out, and then without the G Leaguers. Otherwise, really clean injury report here. So did the starters jersey search yield any results? And do you have any other notes on Philadelphia to add?
No, it did not. Nothing from Cavs Twitter yet, so we'll be on that and possibly have it for you on the DFS show. They haven't posted anything, so I'm not going off anything there. Yeah, so Nick Batum returned, from personal issues. He was played shorter stints. Nick Nurse said after the game that they're going to keep starting him, so expect Batum to play mid-20s minutes. They like him for spacing. They could run more stuff with his just ability to shoot in the corners and on the wings, and length overall. So yeah, expect him to start. And then, yeah, this is a mess. These Robert Covingtons, Beverly's, Springer's been impacting the rotation. So it's kind of dicey. It's kind of probably be a split fest here. You would think they need a little bit more size. So you would think Robert Covington maybe more in line here than the Patrick Beverly's and the Springers of the world. So we'll look into that. Yeah, but again, obviously, as you mentioned, hopefully they go for this one. Who did they play tomorrow? Minnesota Timberwolves in Minnesota.
Yep.
So I could see them going for this one and then, really dialing it back tomorrow and all that stuff. But yeah, pretty straightforward. Expecting Batum to play. They'll run his stints a little longer, kind of just gleaning from what Nurse said, so he can get into upper 20s, and then maybe that could condense these Covingtons, House, all that stuff.
Nice. Yeah, and for most of these teams, not only is it the front end of a back-to-back, right, but it's the start of a 3 games in 4 nights, because while nobody plays on Thursday, a lot of teams play on Friday. For Philadelphia, they do not. They actually have the 2 full days off, and then they go from Minnesota to Oklahoma City. So it will be interesting to see if they decide to really push tonight. I do think if they really push tonight really hard, like if you see an Embiid 38 minutes or something, you should be ready tomorrow, which we'll talk through on the injury report stuff. But keep an eye on that one. Good news so far, nothing to worry about, fingers crossed, for tonight. Okay, let's move to Indiana and Atlanta, the other big game of the evening in my opinion. On the Indiana side, G Leaguer's just questionable here, along with Andrew Nembhard, who missed last game. Lower back soreness is the tag here. Do you have any notes on Nembhard's potential return tonight?
No, not too much. Didn't really get too much from Carlisle. Seems like it's minor. Could be back, but they might not even play him anyways. We know they really like TJ McConnell. There was a lot of commentary from Carlisle saying that they kind of wanted to start playing Ben Shepherd and Jarris Walker. So that's kind of on the radar, and that would be another way to do it, right? Like obviously, if you're playing McConnell and Nemhard's bagged up, maybe you put Shepherd essentially in Nemhard's spot. So that's something to kind of consider. And then yeah, Jarris was really good. The Pacers were down and out, and they kind of made a garbage time run because Jarris is kind of good. So he's still in the quote unquote stay ready group, so we're probably not getting minutes yet, but we're looking here. I could see the second unit starting to shift, which was kind of a matter of time because I think Jarris Walker's a really good player. Other than that, yeah, they were just humiliated in the first half. Orlando just came out throwing haymakers to put this game away. But yeah, should be, besides what I just talked about, mostly straightforward with the starters. But we'll see if even Jordan Nwora was really good too. Guys out of the rotation.
Yep.
So all their guys who are like just out of the rotation all played really well while they got housed otherwise. So again, we're on alert back to back. We know it's a situation where coaches tend to be a little bit looser with rotation. So this is going to be pretty tricky to project when we do that after the injury show here.
Yeah, I think so. I just peeked ahead at the schedule because I like to peek at the ahead at the schedule when you hear these coach comments, right? And like tonight's the in-season tournament game that if they win, they're into the in-season, they qualify. I think tonight we see like everything pretty normal, pretty condensed rotation. We'll see if Nembhard or McConnell are kind of that ninth guy, but I think we'll see that tonight. But if you look ahead after this game for them, they play Toronto at home tomorrow, which again, on a back-to-back could expand the rotation, could be an opportunity to see some of these guys, Shepherd, Walker, maybe Nwora, so on and so forth. But then look at the next two games. Friday, Detroit at home. Sunday, Portland. Or wait, sorry, not Sunday. Monday, Portland at home, and getting Portland on the second end of a back-to-back. Those look like two great spots to potentially expand out the rotation or try out some new guys at kind of low stakes, right? These games that you feel like you probably win comfortably. So I kind of wonder if Indiana, the front office has kind of looked ahead at the schedule and been like, hey, Rick, we want you to start getting opportunities for these guys. This pocket is coming up where we've got Detroit and Portland in back-to-back games. That might be an opportunity to get a look at some of these younger players. And then he might have like just communicated that via the media.
You mentioned Nembhard did go through some. I was going to say Nembhard got some pregame shots up, so it seems like he's got a pretty good chance to play. So could be a tough projection if we do have him in there.
Yeah, all a hypothesis here, but one that I think logically could make some sense. On the Atlanta side of things, nothing really to note here. AJ Griffin is out due to illness. He's been kind of on the fringes of the rotation all year long, so I think this sets it up as a very clear 9 tonight. I guess the question is if we'll see Wes Matthews, in any sort of role. This doesn't seem like the matchup to really get a lot of Wes Matthews. But yeah, that's the big note here. What are your thoughts on what we can expect from Atlanta?
The only thing that would make me a little bit nervous about going tight is the pace of this game is going to be really strong. We know the Pacers play really fast. The Hawks are first or second in offensive pace. So this is going to be a shootout, especially when, as we just mentioned, there's a lot on the line here for these teams. So this definitely is quite clearly the game to target. I would say, looking into it later. Should mention Utah's defense is also quite bad. But I think that DeAndre Hunter got dinged up. He's fine. We sort of shouldn't expect anything there. But yeah, I think we're kind of in a pretty good groove. DeJounte Murray is going to be more aggressive, according to Quinn Snyder. Trace coming around here. The assists have been really good. The driving stuff's a little bit better. And we talked about Julius Randle improving on layups. Trey's been just a little bit better. Where like Randle's like redeemed himself already. So Trey's still got
Right.
some work to do. And DeJounte, is playing really well, especially defensively. Their pick and roll coverages have been really strong. So this is kind of a bad matchup for Tyrese Halliburton per possession. But again, this pace could just override everything, especially if Halliburton is, and those quotes are true about Halliburton and wanting to kind of advance in the play-in. So like this is a classic macro situation versus matchup situation. Usually you just lean on the macro and just like, okay, Halliburton's probably crushing.
Yeah. All right. Portland and Phoenix on the Portland side. Lots of questionable tags here. Malcolm Brogdon. Then all the G League guys are questionable. They're still without Anthony Simmons. Robert Williams lost for the season. Ish Wainwright they're without as well, and Scoot Henderson, of course. But the questionable tags on the G League guys are kind of notable in a blowout situation potentially here. With they're like 13-point underdog, something like that in Phoenix here. So I would just note to keep an eye on the G League guys and if they get upgraded as well. We obviously will, and we'll probably include some minutes projections towards the back end for those types of guys if they are available, and have to take them off if they're not available. Any notes on Brogdon and his potential return tonight?
Yeah, back to back. They were kind of hinting he was doing some warm up, so it kind of seemed like they were going to play him in one of these two games. Road game today, home game tomorrow. Probably sit him today, right? And should also
Yeah.
mention too, I think this is somewhat related, that Jamari Bouye was listed as out last night and got upgraded today. So I think
Um,
he's, like I said, I feel like it's kind of Brogdon's leaning out here. We'll have him projected in all day, but that could be more value for Skylar Mays, certainly. That would be quite viable to play if you're looking for spend downs. And I don't know what his price is, but I maybe take that back. But yeah, I kind of
yeah.
think Brogdon should stay, and then they'll have Bouye ready to go. We'll see if he traveled. I'll have to do some G League research later for the DFS show.
The challenge is always with Portland is, as you saw last game, right? It's huge systemic risk, massive blowout. They lose by 40 here, and everybody's minutes get stuck in the 20s. They play games that they lose by like 10, and a bunch of guys get into the upper 30s. And so it's like it's a big teetering of like, if you can get it, if you can keep it somewhat close, you've got big minutes stealing from these guys. But if it doesn't, the floor is really bad, and the price tags are kind of elevated on all the main guys. So tough to play Portland. It'll be interesting to see if Phoenix can put teams away. They did do that to Minnesota on the second end of a back-to-back for Minnesota, but they struggled to do that against a Utah team. It was in Utah. Utah's a tough place to play, but it'll be interesting to see if Phoenix can put teams away, which would benefit them on the front end of the back-to-back as well. Let's talk about those Phoenix Suns. Still without Bradley Beal, Jordan Goodwin listed available with a jaw contusion. That's good news for them, but also without Yuta Watanabe here. How does that impact the back end of the rotation for Phoenix?
Yeah, we saw Nazir a little sneak in there to give a little bit of pressure off of Laurie Marketing, who was Kevin Durant's primary. So I think that was kind of why. But yeah, I expect Nazir to slide right in there. Obviously, that secures Katie Bates D-Ups minutes. Don't see why they would go away from this Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen situation, especially in a much smaller matchup. Kind of at least from a forward standpoint. Certainly, Jeremy Grant isn't quite as big as Laurie, but kind of have similar aspects to their game. So that makes a lot of sense to me. So I expect him to start. I think Nazir's minutes could come around, but this is really a tough one to read here. We've seen just kind of 2-3 game samples and then flipping around. That Saturday against the 76ers still haunts me
Yeah.
from when they pulled Josh Okogie out of the starting lineup out of nowhere. I wouldn't say out of nowhere. Yuta started over him in the second half in the previous game. But pretty tough read on this KBD, Okogie, Little situation. But I feel pretty strongly that Grayson Allen's kind of locked in, Eric Gordon's kind of locked in, and then obviously Booker's just sun running with this role he has. And then they're playing Kevin Durant a ton, as we mentioned on the podcast as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, huge spread tonight, front end of back-to-back in-season tournament. As I said in the intro, I think they're not going to care at all about the in-season tournament. I think they're going to treat this like a very normal game, but interesting to see. It's a test case, right? Front end of a back-to-back, though, here for Phoenix, as it is for everybody else, is important to note. All right, Utah and the Lakers, the fight for Group A. The winner comes out with Group A. If Utah can win and Phoenix can lose, I guess. So if the Lakers win, they can win Group A. Let's start with the Utah side as they try to inch closer to a Group A victory. Still without Walker Kessler here and without all their G League guys. Any notes on the Jazz rotation tonight?
Yeah, just Keontae George is locked and loaded. Commentary from Will Hardy saying that the only way to get him to be a championship player, which hey, lofty aspirations, we love it, is to give him more minutes. So I think Keontae George, my guy, is locked into a really big role. The touches have been freaking fantastic. The assists have been there. Can't score yet. That'll come. Pretty standard for any. I mean, just ask Scoot Henderson. You know, these young guards just can't score right away. So to be expected. Laurie, 50 minutes, double overtime game obviously explains that, but he's been playing really well. You know, matchups tougher. I don't think it's as tough. I mean, he's not a big rim guy, anyways. You think like, hey, he's huge, yada yada. I believe he's still first in the NBA in catch and shoot attempts, so he can play off ball a ton and shoot away. AD won't impact him as much as he'll impact players who just need to score around the basket. So could see a pretty big role from Laurie. Mention again, this is a game I think they want to get, man. They haven't been winning games, but it'd be nice to get in this in-season tournament for the morale of your team for sure. So I think this is going to be a tight situation. So we could see a lot of Jordan Clarkson revenge game. Laurie, John Collins has been really trusted into the center role, and then we're actually seeing Colin Sexton starting to benefit a little bit from this rotation being trimmed down. Same with Taylor Horton Tucker. So we kind of know this is a 9-man. Again, I think this game's going to be played pretty tight. So yeah, definitely, quite clearly, the two games we want to attack are this one and the Atlanta and Indiana game.
I mean, some teams just, they take the in-season tournament more seriously. Utah's got 2 of their 4 wins this season in the in-season tournament.
Yeah,
Might have something to do with being in a group with Memphis and Portland. I don't know, but maybe they just get up for
maybe.
the in-season tournament games as well. You noted Keontae George's role being really secure. I will say, in this game, 34 minutes in double overtime is not a huge number.
Yeah.
It's because Taylor Horton Tucker was absolutely rolling. And one of the challenges of the Utah guards just generally is each of these guys is so up and down with their play in terms of Sexton, Taylor Horton
Mhm.
Tucker, and Keontae George that you can see some fluctuation from game to game in them, which allows for ceiling from a DFS side when the prices come down on some of these guys, but also shaky floors if ownership goes in that direction at
Mhm.
any point. Just because these guys are all like high variance, talented, skilled players who play very inconsistent. And so, like the other game against Phoenix, Taylor Horton Tucker had it absolutely rolling and got really extended
Mhm.
rotations. Now, Keontae played all the overtime, so it like evened out and he was fine. But it's something to note that just going forward, these 3 guys, the fact that this team is now playing 10 or playing 9 instead of 10 is a really big deal. Eliminating Chris Dunn from the rotation, which, look, if you're not going to play Chris Dunn against Devin Booker in a double overtime game, you're probably not playing Chris Dunn. And they had 2 games in a row of not playing Chris Dunn against Devin Booker. So I think we can say at this point, Chris Dunn is finished. Um, in terms of how that relates to the other guards, they have a big ceiling opportunity at their disposal now when they're just competing with each other. But it's going to be highly variant from game to game, is what I would know.
Yeah.
With Keontae having
Lor-
the clear like first crack all the time.
They have two guys who are finished now. Chris Dunn and Lauri Markkanen.
Well played, sir.
Thank you,
All
thank
right,
you.
let's move to the Lakers side of things. Lakers list LeBron James as questionable with a left calf contusion. Anthony Davis probable with left abductor hip spasms. Jalen Hood-Schifino questionable with right patella contusion. Hood-Schifino not expected to be in the rotation even if he was available. So the LeBron questionable tag, real? Not real? What are your thoughts?
That is not real. The meme girl from the airplane. No, he's good. Front and back to back again. Big tournament game here. They have a good game. They play Dallas tomorrow, so pretty important. They're
Yeah,
home as well, so yeah, expecting him to go national TV TNT game. He's fine. I even expect him to play tomorrow. I think they'll just let him go. I mean, we saw that 2 weeks ago. We had a back to back when he played a ton. He was out there the next night, so I think he's out
yeah.
there. Yeah, so pretty full minutes here. Going to start again. D'Angelo Russell, Cam Reddish, Torian Prince, LeBron, and AD. And I've been mentioning that D'Angelo Russell's minutes floor is shaky, and he kind of had it happen to him here. He has to really share minutes with Austin Reeves, who played pretty well off the bench. Could be pretty tight. They could cut Jackson Hayes out, go 8-ish again, like they kind of did last time. They wanted to kind of get get a win against a pretty scrappy Houston team who was really mistake prone last night against the Warriors, but save that for another day. So yeah, should be pretty potentially profitable and tight rotation in for the Lakers.
Yeah, and on LeBron, I think most likely if they have any concerns about managing him, it would be on the back end of this as opposed to the front end. Um, I think it's important for LeBron's legacy. He's always compared to Michael Jordan in rings and stuff. Michael Jordan never won an in-season tournament. So I think this is an opportunity for LeBron to potentially, make a dent in the legacy question around him and Michael Jordan. So I think the in-season tournament will get a little extra attention here. No concerns on the Anthony Davis probable tag. We always know probable tags are important too. Okay.
Yep. No, we're
All
good.
right. All right. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I did see one note, scheduling note. Deshaun asks, what is my plan for being on Established Millie and NBA show simultaneously tonight? Yeah, it's not happening this year for me and Establish the Millie, but make sure to tune in to some of the free content that we put out on the site during Thanksgiving week for the NFL side. That Establish the Millie is a fun episode to do each year with the drinking game and the rules and whatnot. I just do not have it in me to get a drinking game done this week with all the NBA stuff going on. So enjoy those guys there. You can watch them on replay, right? The NFL games are on Thursday. Watch us live behind the paywall, 5:00 Eastern time. Myself and Mike Gallagher tonight breaking down the slate. We'll talk through the good chalk, the bad chalk, the leverage plays, the good contrarian options, the pivots, and of course the flag plants. So join us behind the paywall, NBA in-season DFS package. Get it today. Join us tonight at 5:00 Eastern time for the live show. As always, if you are interested in supporting this good free content, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, get notifications whenever we go live. And of course, smash that like button and help feed that algorithm. It helps feed our families. Hence, the ability to travel and see my family today is all because you guys smashed that like button. Without that like button, I wouldn't even be able to see my family. So please smash the like button and we can all be fed on this wonderful Thanksgiving week. Nom, 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 nom. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.